The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools. If it's the sport you care about, we're talking about it. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
It's the Full Court Press, Hour 2 here on a happy Friday to you all, March 27th, 5:01 your start time here, and grateful to have you joining us wherever and however you are joining us from. If you missed the first hour, it is posted on our podcast platform, Stitcher, iTunes, and Spotify. Just type in Eric's name, my name, or the Full Court Press, and you'll find it all, including past episodes, past interviews, and such. If you missed the first hour, we talked a little bit about Utah Jazz basketball, Rudy and Donovan, and the Utah Jazz team as a whole, including coaching staff and other staff members have been cleared and are healthy. But basketball is yet to resume and looks like it probably won't resume until maybe, if we're lucky, late May. And then we talked a little bit about what that means for the NBA. Brian Windhorst had made some comments about maybe they play inside of empty arenas to air hanging crafts. That's right. You heard it right.
And what? Air hanging crafts?
Yes.
Air hanging crafts.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Like are those like other crafts?
No.
You could do like the...
No, it's the...
You glue macaroni around and...
What are you talking about? Like, no, air hanging crafts. Dude, it's like where they bring the court down
just use
onto
like
a
some
platform.
Elmer's glue and some glitter?
No, that's where they use the basketball court. They bring it, like where they just insert it in.
Like with some string?
Onto like a ship
hang
or
it from the
something.
Ceiling?
No.
Air hanging crafts.
What are you talking about? You know
I don't
what I'm
know
talking
what you're talking
yes,
about.
Yes, you do. You know exactly what that means. Don't do that to me.
Airplane hanger?
What? Airplane hanger?
Is that what you were trying to say?
Play on an airplane hanger? What are you talking about?
I like that. I'm going to start referring to it as air hanging crafts.
That's what it is. You're a bully. And then, of course, Governor Herbert came down, Eric, with a directive that it's a stay safe, stay home. Yeah,
this just happened. The press conference wrapped up just maybe 15 minutes ago. It was supposed to maybe last 30 minutes. It lasted nearly an hour. Governor Gary Herbert addressing the state. And we'll have more details on CashValleyDaily.com in just a few moments. But basically, he's issued a stay home, stay safe, stay home directive, which is different than an order, which I guess we're still trying to figure out what that exactly means. But state of Idaho had a stay home order, and that's a little bit more strict. Now, this directive gives counties a little more flexibility if they want to do full-on stay-home orders or be a little bit more lax, because there are some counties in the state of Utah that really are not affected, but there are others that are severely affected. But that it's strongly encouraging anyone over the age of 60 not to leave their homes except for essential trips to like the grocery store and things like that. And we know that spring break is upon us throughout the state. It starts on Monday for the Logan District. It starts on Wednesday for the Cache and for Cache County School District. Basically, Governor Herbert saying no recreational travel. You can attend state parks, but only attend the state parks that are in your county. So he's really trying to limit people from getting out and about and spreading things. We're up to almost 400 confirmed cases today, and an additional death that was reported as a result of coronavirus. The rate of testing versus or being positive tests versus those number of people being tested is still pretty good compared to other parts of the country. But the state of Utah is just trying to stay ahead of this. According to what Gary Herbert is saying today, he says it's okay to get out and exercise and go on trails and do things like that. Just don't congregate at trailheads. Social distancing is still important. Keep your safe distance from other people. You can do things as a family, obviously, but you need to really keep your safe distance from others, as that's the key to stop the spread of this virus. So again, Governor Gary Herbert issuing a stay safe, stay home directive, and wanting people to stay home, limit their travel. It says that really, if you can, as an employer, encouraged telecommuting. You also made it clear you don't need to require a doctor's note to come to work, but he is encouraging employers from being understanding. If there's someone who's feeling ill or someone in their family is feeling ill, they should stay home. But he's making these announcements, trying to keep people from doing too much travel and to limit the spread of this disease. So, again, Governor Herbert earlier this afternoon, just about an hour ago, less than an hour ago, holding a press conference and saying that he's wanting people to stay home and only go outside when it's necessary, especially in those compromised populations, those over the age of 60, those with compromised health issues. So he really wants to get people to stay healthy, continue to practice good hygiene, but gotta stay home. Gotta slow this thing down.
You good?
Yep.
Okay.
I'm good.
Just want to make sure.
Well, just the last thing here from Governor Herbert. He says businesses that do remain open are reminded to comply with all public health orders, offer telework options whenever possible, follow strict hygiene policies, implement enhanced social distancing measures when you are in the workplace where telework is not an option. So, anyways, that's the word from Governor Herbert today.
Be cool. Stay out of school.
Gee, that's already happening for another month.
Are you surprised they haven't put it down a shutdown? Like, is this just being too soft? I mean, I don't mean to get into the political aspect of things on a sports talk show, but I do ask, because that seems to be the gripe among people after the press conference was over is, look, we're all staying in our homes. Well, you're not really, to be honest with you. And this isn't an order, it's just only a directive. You surprised he hasn't come out and said, let's shut this down. Let's get this over with. Let's move on with our lives, get back to normalcy, and get ahead of this thing and get it over with.
Yeah, I know it's a great debate. I've heard a couple different arguments. Some people saying, why doesn't everybody just shut down for 2 weeks everywhere and get it out of our system, get the people treated, and then slowly start to resume things? But on the other hand, others are like, look, if I do that, that's the economic impact of that is so catastrophic. But there's also another argument that this slow trickle where things get clamped down little by little, more and more, is also catastrophic because it's a slow bleed that's hard to recover from. But there are businesses that are open, and this encouragement is still there from all of us here at the Cache Valley Media Group to shop local. Tip the best you can if you do have any kind of delivery service or when you go out. I love
what he said. Go to a local place 3 times a week if you have the finances to be able to do it. You don't have to, but if you do have the finances to be able to go out, please go out 3 times a week because, Eric, I think you've brought this up a couple of times, and I love what Cache Valley Daily and what you guys have done of making sure that you promote local business, local diners everywhere to get takeout. And I think that's a great point here is if we can, go support those local restaurants because they're going to be hurting big time.
They already are. I mean, they've had to, a number of them have had to lay off large sections of their staff. Thankfully, this restaurant co-op was put together to help keep some of those people employed as delivery drivers. But I feel bad. I mean, the uninsurance claims are going through the roof right now.
You know what I was just I loved was Old Chicago Pizza. Because that's a local one, isn't it?
Yeah.
I love Old Chicago Pizza. I love, the pasta's good. The pizza's incredible. Firehouse is really good, too. Firehouse is, their pastas are... The bread, actually, the bread sticks with cheese in the middle is incredible.
Firehouse is more so locally owned and operated than Old Chicago, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah, well, they're both local.
Well, yes, it's localized here, but doesn't mean it's a local restaurant, if you know what I mean. A mom and pop started here.
Wait, shut up. So wait, Firehouse is local?
Firehouse Pizza was, started here.
Really?
Yeah.
I honestly didn't know that. That's cool.
But
Okay.
I'm just pulling it up. The restaurant co-op that was put together and we're helping to promote is Cache Valley Restaurant Delivery.
Uh-huh.
It started out with like maybe a dozen restaurants. Now it's over 30. So it's awesome.
Wow, that is
They're
great.
coming together, all these restaurants pooling together to help each other out, provide opportunities for people to still get some great food. If you're stuck at home, you're tired of fixing the same thing over and over, if you can, support these restaurants and other businesses, other industries here in town, local business. Boy, it really does make a big, big difference. We've been preaching shop local for a long time here on our radio station, but now more than ever, it's important. These are neighbors, our friends. Let's try to keep them employed.
All right. You ready to talk sports again?
I'm ready.
Hey, I want to read something. Today, Kirk Herbstreit was asked by ESPN Radio. This was late Thursday night. And was asked about, college football, NFL football, and the hopes of starting in 2020. Kirk Herbstreit said this, and I quote, "I'll be shocked if we have NFL football this fall. If we have college football, I'll be so surprised if that happens. Just because, from what I understand, people that I listen to, you're 12 to 18 months from a coronavirus vaccine. I don't know how you let these guys go into locker rooms and let stadiums be filled up and how you can play ball. I just don't know how you can do it with the optics of it." He later then on continued, "Next thing you know, you got a locker room full of guys that are sick, and that's on your watch. I wouldn't want to have that. As much as I hate to say it, I think we are scratching the surface of where this thing's going to go. You don't all of a sudden come up with something in July or August and say, okay, we're good to go, turn them loose." What do you think? Football on time? Yes or no? By the way, Jeff Grammer of New Mexico beat writer, said that if New Mexico cancels its first portion of non-conference season football, Eric, they lose $4.5 million.
Yeah, that first part of the season for a lot of schools that are not Power 5 programs, that bankrolls not only the football program, but much of their athletic department for the year. So you got to go play those big money games. You're hoping for a game in your stadium that your team's going to be able to beat, that fans get excited for. And for those ticket sales, it's catastrophic. But here's what the problem I have with Herbstreit is what he's saying here. He's applying what's going on now to what we don't know what's going to be happening in 3 months from now. So I think that's a mistake. I don't think it's a problem to be having discussions about trying to explore options or understand what's going on out there, but to apply what's going on today with what might or might not be happening in 2-3 months from now, I think is a mistake. And I think he's caught up in the fear and the uncertainty of today, and he's applying that to what might take place later on. And I think we have to be careful with that. But I think that there is a certain degree that we have to be careful of if this drags on too long, and how that does impact fall sports in the NFL and college football and the NBA coming up in the 2020-2021 season. You need to give these players ample time to get their bodies right in order to compete. Because if you don't, there's going to be injuries on the field. So if he's making it sound like locker rooms right now are highly infected places, which really how clean is your average locker room, and how sanitary is it anyway on any given day?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But I just think you have to be careful about getting wrapped up in the uncertainty and fear and anxiety of today and applying that to what we don't know is going to happen and what things are going to look like 3 months from now.
No, you bring up a great point. I think that's the question, is what does the future look like? And to be quite honest, nobody knows right now. Nobody has a clue what it's going to look like.
Right, so anybody jumping up and down with pitchforks saying we got to cancel the college football season now, it's ridiculous. It's ludicrous.
Yeah, I mean,
now in a month, if it's the end of April and we're still uncertain that if this thing's going to be resolved by the end of May, then we need to be starting to have some really serious conversations about it. Because if you don't have 8 weeks, do you need full 8 weeks? Do you need at least 6 weeks? You need some time because the off-season conditioning is really important before you even get into your fall camp. There's got to be kind of a drop-dead date that if it's not resolved by this time, then we have to start looking at pushing things back or adjusting schedules.
Coach Anderson was on another outlet. We don't know that we don't know the outlet, but he was on another outlet talking about the situation of if they doesn't get the kids back by June 1st, if they start later. And then the audio just after that will be Bodie Reeder, who joined Eric and I, and Eric asked him the same question to Coach Reeder of what happens if we don't start on June 1st, and why is that such an imperative thing? Here's Coach A first, and then Coach Reeder after.
If we can't get them back here on June 1st and give them that time, then we need to take a long, hard look at cutting back the number of games that these kids are going to play this year. And maybe it's there's just play conference games. If you have 9 conference games in your season, play 9 games. If you have 8, play 8. Space those out through 10 weeks so TV can break it up and they can have big games when they want them or what have you. But obviously I have a lot of time to think about this, so we have to keep the kids in the forefront.
In my opinion, it's not so much the time that I need with them, it's the time that the strength and conditioning staff needs with them, because it's such a violent game, and now everyone is so heightened awareness in the last few years with player safety for good reason. In my opinion, you need 8 weeks with those kids, because to build their bodies, both with muscle mass to get them in a position where they can withstand a season, and then also in their conditioning and their long muscle training of. Because you think about if these kids came back on June 1st and you tried to run them into the ground, you'd have 100 hamstring injuries, right? Because as much as you want to believe that they're doing everything possible to be in shape, it's just not the same as being here and being under our eyes all the time. I think you need 8 weeks with them to get them to a point where they could hold up during a season.
It's a really good, but it's actually a valid point brought up by both coaches. It's not about TV. It's not about money. It's about the kids, and we've continually forgot about that. And that's what they're worried about is, look, if we get these kids out there and start in June and just go, they might get hurt.
Well, look, if they start in June, I mean, they don't need to go 100 miles an hour on June 1 because you're still not having games for at least 10 weeks from then. But you're going to be doing progressively more difficult practices, progressively more difficult and strenuous activity on your body. So you need time to acclimate and get ready for that so that you are ready when fall camp is going. You need to be, especially in those later weeks, you need to be going full speed.
Yeah.
And so June 1, maybe that's just an easy easy date to throw out there. Maybe it's not so hard and fast it's that date specific, but by mid-June at least, at the very least. But again, that's a couple of months away. The numbers keep going up right now, but if people this is all kind of a delay of how this virus works. We didn't start really shutting things down until just 2 weeks ago, and even then, things didn't get serious lockdown across the country until this last week. So the way this virus incubates in your system for 14 days, it's still going to be another couple of weeks before we really see the evidence of how this is working. So, but then the other concern too is that if we look like, okay, the numbers are coming down, we can resume, go back to normal, and then all of a sudden it spikes again. Then it's another problem. But Gary Anderson, Coach Bodie Reeder, yeah, they're right. I mean, you got to have some time to acclimate. But to your point, Ajay, if you're canceling non-conference games, at least you're still able to play the game. And maybe we just look, there's already a significant financial loss from the NCAA tournament not happening. And that's just the reality we're going to live in. We just all have to realize budgets will not be the same. We're all going to be running in the red. But the non-conference games, the money games are going to disappear. And maybe we just, as long as there still can be some fall football, I think everybody would be still happy with that.
Yeah, be okay with it. Yep, absolutely. And I think that's what we continue to forget. Oh, I'm not rolling. Is it crazy to say this? And maybe it's too dramatic, Eric. Please correct me if I'm wrong. We need to have college football start on time. like just for the sake of the country, we need NFL and college football to start on time. Because basketball and baseball it will get there, and it will be back. I promise you that. It will be back. But it's going to take some time. But to have college football, which is the brand of the fall, right? It kind of kicks off the fall season in the most prestigious and most reverent way on a Thursday night, and then on, of course, a Saturday afternoon. It just kickstarts everything for you that fall is here. And if you don't start on time, it almost just feels like, it's a deflate.
Ajay, if we're talking about whether or not the college football season can start on time, does Major League Baseball season just not exist for 2020?
I'm with you. I
mean, do you even have a season?
Yep, I'm with you because
do you just scrap it?
Okay, so here, that's a really great question.
Or do you just say, just from this is what the schedule was supposed to be, but whenever the season can get the clear to go, and we may be playing games without fans in the arena, but if we get the dates now, and I've heard some baseball officials earlier today saying if they got the go-ahead today, they'd still need a couple of weeks to get everybody in physical condition to go. So, I mean, let's say they get the go-ahead today, which isn't going to happen. Baseball won't start till mid-April. I mean, I think at this point, we'd be lucky if we had any baseball happening in May. But if that does happen, do you just say, we've lost like 2 months?
Yeah.
Do you just start here where you were all supposed to be on the schedule?
There's the question.
And play it out from there? Or
that's
do you try to adjust it?
The question right now is because the MLB and the MLB Players Association, they agreed on stipulations for the return of the 2020 season. More financially, specifically, there was a 17-page agreement with the union on Friday, and with players who are willing to extend the season as long as needed to cover as close to a full schedule as possible. The deal provides $170 million in salary advances and guarantees service time to players even if no games are played. Here's the kicker. The season was to start Thursday, and Game 7 of the World Series was on track to be on October 28th. Now, with opening day, maybe, best case scenario right now, according to many of sources and execs in the MLB, mid-May at earliest, you're looking at the final pitch, Eric, being closer to Christmas Day.
Yeah, really? I mean, that was my question. Do you just start where you are now in the season? Do you shift the season back? And if so, you'd be playing baseball in like late December, that's just ludicrous.
So now,
unless you're a southern states or an indoor arena, but not all of them are.
No, but then they also talked about also playing maybe some of the season in Mexico. I'm not even joking when I say that.
Ugh.
And also looking at Arizona and warmer season or warmer places where it'd be a neutral site. If, for example, if the say the New York Yankees were playing the Colorado Rockies in the World Series, they would take both those teams and they'd play them in Arizona, in Texas, or in L.A. to play the World Series. If it were to go, and by the way, it would go into you're looking at Thanksgiving for the World Series.
Easy.
So you would have to, what they would do is they move it into one of the warmer states, Florida, Texas, Arizona, or L.A. Could you imagine Colorado, New York playing in one of those states to play in the World Series?
That would be interesting.
It would be different. That's what it is, Eric. We're at that point where sports is going to be different and that's why we need college football to start on time. You'd have to come up with
some way that the revenue of those games goes back to those teams.
That's a great point.
But I'm sure you can work that out.
But here's the thing and that's why we need college football to start on time. That's why we need NFL to start on time because, look, everything is different. Everything is people, because you always have that one person, or that one person that hates change. Of any sort, they hate change. Well, if it's a sports fan, they're an absolute just maniacal mess right now. Right? Because baseball's going to start maybe at mid-May. Basketball is best case scenario, late May, if June. And then the Masters, they're going to be playing in September. The Masters is. So at some point, you got to sit there and say, what can we get us back to normalcy? College football and NFL starting on time can do that for us.
Yeah. No. Well, I think just sports starting to happen again is a big part of that. I don't care what the sport is. I think it's going to play a major role. Can you imagine what the ratings are going to be on the first televised broadcast of whatever the sport is after not having it for 2 solid weeks? Everybody's already like dying. And what if this continues on for another 2 months? So, crazy to think about that. And there was some talk about baseball increasing doubleheaders to shorten the season.
I could see that.
But you have to add more pitchers to your rotation because your pitchers still need a prescribed number of days between.
Well, they're not only thinking about that, but they're also
play.
starting to think about maybe playing just 7-inning doubleheader games.
Well, that's smart. These are unusual times, and you need to do unusual things.
So if you can have your pitcher go 7 full innings for a game, that saves you your bullpen, that saves you a starter for the next day, and that actually, that gets you across your rotation through
even
a
if
week
they go 4 innings
without
and you don't
exhausting
go deep into your rotations, that's going to help you.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, I remember when I used to go do Bees games on the radio with Steve Klauke, we'd always talk about the importance of playing the 7-inning doubleheaders and how rotations would change, bullpens would change because they have that extra, 2 innings that they don't have to use. They can spare a pitcher in the bullpen. By the way, sources have also said that players drafted in 2020, Eric, will get only $100,000 of their bonus this year. The remaining will be split into payments made in July 2021 and 2022. Ouch.
This is for Major League Baseball?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, there are a lot of financial problems with baseball.
Yes, there is.
As much as those big contracts gather a lot of the attention.
Having a cap kills you.
It's got some real issues. One of the other things too is there was debate happening already in the NBA among some circles that the NBA season shouldn't start until Christmas time because in the fall it's still very much football season. The World Series is going on when basketball NBA season gets started. And so ratings are always pretty low. And there's been some talk about, look, let's just yield. Let's just concede the fact that season belongs to football and even the Major League Baseball playoffs. And then we'll just say that Christmas Day is our day to launch basketball.
Oh, there you go.
And then shift the whole rest of the season into July and August. The problem with that, Ajay, I have multiple problems with that.
I'm not seeing it. Why?
I think on Christmas Day, by then, teams have figured out a little bit about what their rotations are like. We're starting to figure out the storylines in the NBA. We're figuring out who the stars are, what the teams really are at that point. If you were to just all of a sudden start, I don't know that you'd have as much of a lead up to it. I don't think it would be as exciting as it has been. On the other hand, the other point too is that if you delay it into the summer, that messes up opportunities for international play. If you want to do the FIBA tournaments and the Olympics, because those are going on in the summertime, and so you wouldn't be able to send NBA players to those anymore because you'd be right in the middle of the postseason. Or even the tail end of the regular season. So I don't see it. I don't really buy it. But if we're going to try it, now is as good a time as any because everything's being shifted and changed.
That's a great point. I love the idea of basketball season starting on Christmas Day. And you just throw on the 5 games that you normally do, put on the 5 games on Christmas Day, and go from there. What did you say about the playoffs, though, for at least this 2020 season? Are you just saying, okay, because we have the 18 games remaining plus playoffs? And
I wasn't talking about this season, but if you regularly start the NBA regular season on Christmas, then your postseason is going to be happening in August.
Okay, I got you.
And that's during the Olympics. That's during FIBA,
which is all
other qualifying events, and you couldn't send NBA players to those.
Yeah, no, I'm with you.
I don't know how important that is.
I just, it makes me.
But if we're doing it just for ratings' sake, I just think that's a silly reason.
It's a silly reason. Yeah, I'm with you. Which I don't think Silver is all about that. I think David Stern would. I honest to heaven think he would, because hey, we look really good on the tube. I think Adam Silver is more player based, and so he's communicating. And I swear to life, I really do think this, Eric. I think Eric is in communication with guys like Steph Curry, LeBron James, Giannis Antetokounmpo, some of the major stars, and saying, what do you think we should do? Because you players are the assets that make us the billions of dollars that we are worth. So what do you think is the best format? And I think that I honestly genuinely think that there's a conversation between that group, with owners and execs included, of how to make sure that this situation is done the right way.
Well, they're looking at that kind of stuff now because they got nothing better to do. They're not managing games. They're not trying to figure out how to schedule the next game and travel and all those other logistics. So they got nothing else to do.
So if we start, because I'm with you now. I was against you at first, but I'm with you now. I think we play the remaining 18 games because we have to.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to at this point.
There's no equality right now in how many across the board with how many games have been played for each team.
Yeah.
So you have to get to that 82. There's tiebreaker scenarios that are important that need to be figured out. I don't think you can just all of a sudden begin when NBA decides to come back, begin in the postseason. I just don't think you can.
So then you're looking at postseason ending when? You said August? Is that right?
Well, it depends on when it starts up again, but right now we're looking at August.
August, September?
Well, it'd be done in August, but your late playoff rounds are probably going to be in early August.
And then that's going to lead us right into football season, man.
Because if your regular season ends in mid-April, you're playing the finals in the first week of June.
Okay. So if we start at, and what, best case scenario is what, end of May? Is that right? Mid to late May?
So, yeah, you need 6 weeks for the playoffs. And maybe they change it. They say, look, we're just going to go best of fives instead of best of sevens.
See, that's the other thing they could do, and that's the other thing I could actually see them doing. Because let's see, we're looking at end of May. So I'll say for just kicks and giggles, May 25th on Memorial Day, right? We play the 18 games. You're right. You're looking at about June 3rd, first week of July. You're right. You're playing in the finals in the second week of August. Or I guess first full week of August. And those finals could go 3 to 4 weeks, 3 weeks maybe. That following week, Utah State's playing Washington State on a Thursday night.
Finals would only go 2 weeks max.
Oh, you don't think? Okay. So you're saying, okay, but if they go 7 games, Eric, you're saying what? 3 games 1 week, 3 games the next week? Travel included?
Yeah. 3 or 4 games, depending on.
Whew.
Yeah.
Speeding it up. Okay. Fair enough. We're going to take a break. Hey, by the way, just a very polite and kind reminder for those who are listening right now to the Full Court Press here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan. We will be going to a 1-hour show starting Monday, March 30th, 4 to 5. Now, don't freak out. Just calm down. I know you're thinking, well, I only hear you guys from 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 because I'm at work. We're on 1069thefan.com. You can find all our episodes, as well as podcasts of Stitcher, iTunes, and Spotify. You can find everything we have. And don't worry, Season 2 goes through until we start our 2-hour episodes again. We will start our 2-hour episodes when basketball and baseball resume, because you can't fit basketball and baseball into a 1-hour show. It's impossible, and especially the way it's coming up. So we will have a 1-hour show starting next Monday. We will stay 1 hour until we get back to basketball and baseball, until sports gets back to its normalcy. And then we'll come back with full 2-hour shows, which, by the way, means that we will start a new season. It will be Season 3 of the Full Court. I know you guys are like, Season 75, but I'm starting the seasons over because A, you weren't counting, and B, it's a new group. So Season 3 of the Full Court Press will begin probably in late May, give or take, when basketball does start up. And we'll, again, don't you worry, we'll have the Utah Jazz games here on the Full Court Press on the same station, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM The Fan. We'll have all the great content for you, the Jazz pregame and Jazz postgame and such. It will all be here for you guys. So again, 1-hour show starting on Monday. We'll get back to 2-hour shows in about mid to late May as soon as sports resumes itself. Eric Frandsen there. I'm Ajay Salvesen, coming back on the Full Court Press. Don't forget, we'll have our Friday 5 Best, where we talk about the 5 best playoff games to watch. I have 5 good ones for you, Eric, and I want yeses or nos. And I'm not being biased on these games. I'm thinking sincerely about you. Okay? I was thinking about you when I put these games together. But I was also thinking about myself to make us both happy. So we could both sit on the couch with Reggie with a bowl of popcorn and watch
6 feet apart.
Yeah, 6 feet apart. I might be on the floor, or you might be on the floor, but still, we'll make it work. That's all coming up on the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Ajay Salvesen, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
The Aggies, the Jazz, the high schools, the Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
It's Eric Frandsen and Ajay Salvesen here on the Full Court Press. 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan, 5:39 your time as we wrap up a Friday, get you ready for the freaking weekend with no sports again. But don't worry. Our Friday 5 Best contains games that you must watch. Now remember, yesterday Buddy Reader suggested we watch a couple games, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech from 2 years ago, and then the year before that, who was it? It was Montana and who? Do you remember?
Eastern Washington.
Yes, that's right.
Because that's where he was.
They scored 42 points in the second half?
Yeah, they were trailing by more than 20, and then they won by double digits, wide margin.
All right, so our Friday 5 Best will contain the 5 best playoff games that you must watch. Well, the 5 playoff games, from my opinion, that you should watch. Eric, I want to get your opinion on these.
Ranked in no particular order.
Yeah, no order. No order, because they're all great games. And I was not biased towards me saying, I know you should watch the Patriots 2003 divisional game where they picked off Manning 3 times. Yeah, and I'm not going to just go out there and throw out a bunch of Patriot games, so I could, Eric, just for your sake. So you could become a
You're
fan.
very kind. It's very generous of you.
Okay, so the first game I want to... It's a sneaky one, Eric. It really is a sneaky one, but it's a great one. Do you remember the Nuggets-Celtics series in 1994 when Dikembe Mutombo went up against Sean Kemp, Gary Payton, Kendall Gill, and the powerful Sonics team? Do you remember this?
Denver Nuggets versus the Seattle Sonics.
Yep.
For a second, I thought you said Celtics. But
I might have
Sonics.
accidentally said Celtics, sorry. I meant the Sonics.
Ooh, those were some good years.
This was the Sonics had the best road record, the best home record, the best overall record. This Nuggets team this squad had never been to the playoffs. They then get there and have to face the best team in the league.
Oh yeah, they knocked them off.
They were down 0-2, and they got flattened in Seattle. Both games weren't even close. Came back to win the next 3 games. They won the 2 in Denver, and they were just absolutely playing loose. And then beat Seattle in overtime to win Game 5. I'm suggesting you watch Game 5 of the Sonics-Nuggets series.
Sean Kemp was such an athletic
Gary,
freak.
How they never won an NBA championship is beyond my understanding. And Kemp still says, by the way, it is the most heartbreaking loss of his career. Because remember, Jordan was not in the NBA. He was gone playing baseball. So it was between the Sonics, the Suns, and really the Rockets. And then the Sonics lost. The Nuggets played the Jazz. The Jazz beat the Nuggets. In fact, the Jazz were up 3-1, blew the lead, and had to go to a Game 7, and then went and then lost to the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals. And so it still sits with Sean Kemp. But that is Game 5, Nuggets-Celtics in the playoffs in 1994 is a game you got to go watch. One of my favorites ever. Another game...
Well, that's the iconic Dikembe Mutombo's on the
grabs
ground.
The ball in emotion.
He's waving his finger. He's all excited on the ground.
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, absolutely. Again, a really, really, really fun game to go watch. Another good game to go watch, and this is kind of a sneaky one. Oh, where to go? I just had the recap I wanted to read the recap because it was so good. Doggone it. Oh, where to go? Oh, yeah, there it is. Patriots-Panthers Super Bowl. It was a defensive slugfest for the first 2 quarters. Second half opens up, and it becomes a shootout. Both teams put up points like crazy. Final score 32-29. Patriots win it on a vinatory field goal. The first half's fun to watch just because there's so much hitting going on and there's the effects. So you can hear the effects, you can hear the trash talk, and then the second half, the ball's just flying everywhere. Like Jake Delhomme and Tom Brady just had a heyday. It was almost like 7-on-7 passing league. And this had the time of their life. That's one of my other games. Third game is one that you're going to strongly disagree with. Game 7, Cubs, Indians in Cleveland. A rain delay delays this game. Delays it. The Cubs, and then by the way, which means that I think if I remember right, It actually gave the Cubs momentum because the Indians momentum because the Cubs had to go in and throw in a new pitcher. The Indians tagged him, including the Chris Davis. Was it Chris Davis who hit the home run to tie it? That went into the basket in the left field. I think it was Chris Davis. Can't remember the name. But then, of course, you have the Cubs, the double that sent Rizzo to second or third. And with his hands on his head, he kind of realized the momentum of the situation. Do you remember where you were when you were watching the game? Do you remember your reaction to it all?
Oh, yeah. Well, I was home with my kids. We had it on. We were glued to the whole series.
Unreal. Did you honestly think, when it went to Game 7 in Cleveland, were you like, oh, crap, here we go again? Or
Yes.
did you honestly have confidence you guys were going to win? You're like,
No,
we're all
I
right.
just, because of Chicago's history, I thought this team was built to do this, and they're just finding ways to let it slip away.
And by the way, nobody gives
I never allowed myself to put my heart out there too much that they would actually be able to do it.
Yeah, I'm with you. Nobody ever gives Chris Bryant credit enough for the play he made to get that out. You think about this, Eric. Ground ball, two-hopper towards you, but it's slow, so you have to charge after it, and you got a speedy runner going towards first base. This is to win Game 7 of the World Series, and on the run, it's a harder play than it looks. And by the way, he's on 4 or 5 yards from third baseline, charging home to make this play. And he has to throw across his body and get it to first. That is one of the more difficult plays you have to make.
That was a heck of a throw.
And see, people don't give him credit enough for that.
No, it was a great play.
It was a great game, too.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It kept going. It's everything you'd want. You want it clutch. You want it close. You want it decided at the very end, especially for your team. And that's how it played out.
NCAA tournament game. I'm sure you have one or two in your head. Here's mine. Hiding underneath the sheet because you have all these great NCAA tournament games, right? The great upsets and such. For me, and it's more biased, I guess, in my opinion, if you will. But watching Utah just dominate North Carolina in 1998 to go to the national championship was unreal. Watching Andre Miller, Michael Doliak,
great run.
Alex Jensen, Britton Johnson, who was a freshman, just beat the crap out of Antoine Jameson, beat up Vince Carter, and win that.
One of the things I loved
unreal.
most about that run is just watching what Utah would do defensively, different from game to game.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, they used this strategy against this team. They did it in box and one effectively against these guys, and now they're doing the triangle and two, and I was like, this is amazing. It was so obvious to see how well they were doing it, and they executed it to perfection.
You bring up the best point, because you remember who the box and one was on against Arizona? It was to shut down freaking Mike Bibby. And Arizona had act like they never seen a box in one. And so then Mike Bibby's just sitting there kind of in a man's cage, and he's giving it to Simon, and they called him Simon Says. But and Simon was just horrible from the field that day because they were letting him shoot all day. And he could not make a shot to save his life. And Mike Bibby, who was their leading scorer and leading assist man, was just shut down. And it was one of the smartest things. I remember Bill Raftery saying on it, that is one of the most biggest coaching geniuses he's ever seen in his time of calling games.
If they would have had one more day, if Utah could have had one more day
I know.
between the semifinal and final.
Don't do that. Don't do it.
Because that was one of the criticisms that all of a sudden the name, I can't say his name, Coach Majerus. Thank you. Sorry, long day. Majerus would run his guys ragged.
Yes.
Make sure they knew the plays and could execute them with precision. And they were doing it, but eventually just caught up with them in the championship game because they were doing well, and then you could just see they were running out of gas, and they were just trying to hang on. And eventually they just didn't have enough fuel in the tank. They came so close.
One of the great games, just the great game plans I had seen from Rick Majerus. And just, I guess, from the Utah Utes team, it was incredible. It was incredible. Another game that I actually liked, and again, this was the Mountain West tournament back in 11, I believe, or 11. New Mexico and BYU. Jimmer Fredette went off in this game for 38 points on a sizzling shooting of 54%. And by the way, the atmosphere, I wasn't there, But I've been told by numerous people, beat writers, radio play-by-play guys, and just other TV announcers and such, that is the best atmosphere they had ever seen for a college basketball game. That place was lit with New Mexico and BYU fans, and Jimmer put on a show, just that people hadn't seen in recent memory. And so if you ever get a chance, I think it's the Mountain West Conference semifinal, because they played San Diego State in the championship in 11, if I'm not mistaken. And Jimmer Fredette puts on a show. In fact, to watch the whole entire tournament, Jimmer Fredette watch. I mean, I know we're not BYU people here, but watching Jimmer Fredette put on the show near that 11 seed,
that was an
incredible. Amazing
individual performance in a postseason run.
Any games for you, by the way, as I'm bringing these up? I got one more.
Well, I think of some football games, college bowl games. I don't know if that qualifies in this discussion.
Yeah, it's a playoff game.
But the Boise State-Oklahoma game, the first Fiesta
Statue
Bowl.
of Liberty.
Yes, just that one kept going, and Boise State kept coming out with new trick plays. Everything in Oklahoma felt like, all right, we're going to manhandle these guys. Boise State straight up played them, and then they had some trick plays to put them off balance. That was a great game. And then later that season, if I'm not mistaken, that same bowl season was the USC-Texas title game, which was an amazing...
that's right. Vince Young, good one.
Yes, that was a great college football
wasn't
game.
it at the Coliseum?
It was in Southern Utah.
Oh, yeah.
Or Southern California.
That was in California, wasn't it?
I
that
can't
was
remember
in
if it was the Rose Bowl or
Yeah,
USC.
it was. It was a Rose Bowl. So that was in their backyard.
Yeah. So it should have been, theirs to win, but that was a great game.
Final college, and this is a college football playoff game for me as well. And, well, Utah beating up on Alabama is one of the more fun, because you heard all the national writers, Alabama by 30, Alabama by 21, Alabama's pissed, Alabama by 50.
Yeah, it was embarrassing that they were even having to play
Bingo.
Utah.
And that, and Utah's like, well, and Utah did a great job of just shutting their mouth and getting ready for the game. The whole week they heard, well, hey, Alabama said this about you. We don't care. One guy said, instead of playing in the national championship, we're playing in some meaningless bowl game versus some little brother squad. And it was just insult after insult after insult. And then finally, they get to the game. I remember the coin toss, and the mics picked it up. A defensive lineman goes up to an offensive, I think it was Brian Johnson, who was a quarterback at the time, shakes his hand and says, "We're going to kill you tonight." And he's like, "Oh, great. Okay, well, good game. Have good luck tonight." 21-0 after the first quarter. 21-0. And Nick Saban had lost all of his hair.
Oh, that was such a beautiful beatdown. Yeah, that was amazing.
Everybody was on the same side that night in the state of Utah. Everybody was on the same sideline that night.
Sometimes you love to see a close competitive game like the Boise State-Oklahoma come down to the wire. But sometimes I just love to watch a good old-fashioned beatdown.
Yep, and when it comes to the SEC,
it's from the little guy to the big guy.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming back, we'll wrap up here the first hour here on the Full Court Press, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, The Fan.
Hey, have a great weekend, everybody. Just remember, Governor Gary Herbert has issued a stay home, stay safe. It's not a shelter-in-place order, but he is encouraging everyone to stay home as much as possible, work from home whenever possible. Don't travel, especially when it comes to spring break. Sorry, everybody.
Across town when my car got down, started lurching and trying to die. Well, luckily there was a shop, and when it struggled to a stop, a nice fella met me right outside. I said, "Man, something's wrong. What the heck is going on?"